My name's Adelle Onyango, and welcome to another episode of Legally Clueless. No, seriously, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. Hey you, welcome to episode 315 of Legally Clueless. If you're an OG member, thank you for rocking with us from the beginning. If this is your first time listening to this podcast, welcome to the family. Audio episodes like this go out every single Monday. On Wednesdays, we have another audio show called the Midweek Tease. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube. A link to that is in the show notes. Tons of shows going out there. And also in the show notes is a link to our website where you can sign up to receive weekly letters from me. I think the story in this episode is pretty powerful, but before I share just a snippet of what's coming up, it does touch on issues on depression and suicide, which may be triggering, so please consider that as you begin listening to this episode. This is what's coming up.
So by this time, I had been diagnosed with depression. So I was taking medication. The second time I came back to Kenya, I had lost someone I cared about deeply. So coming back to Kenya was already a trigger. It felt like everything I'd been feeling since I was 12 had come back. So yes, I have been hospitalized for mental illness. I have been so depressed. I was getting to the point where people were worried and we needed now to assess the situation. So after my friend passed away, obviously when you see it live, you never expect to see someone pass away live. It really, I'd get nightmares. I couldn't leave the house.
That is Anne Mwaura. We'll get to her story in a bit. First and foremost, how are you doing? I truly hope you're doing great. We are coming to the end of quarter one of 2025. Am I the only one who's just like, time is flying? Yo. But you know what? The faster it goes, the quicker Christmas comes around, so I'm not complaining. Another strange update I have for you is that I am incredibly full, like stomach full. It is a strange update, but after our last episode where we had a conversation with Mitchelle Adagala, who's a fitness and nutrition coach, she spoke so highly about protein. I made sure I added more to my diet, including my breakfast diet. So like yesterday, I had not just eggs, a bit of potatoes, baked beans, tea, but I also added some chicken breast. I was having breakfast at about maybe 9 a.m. Let me tell you, I was hungry again at 6:30 p.m. And normally, I'd have two breakfasts, so like one at about 9. At 11, I'm hungry again. Then I'd have lunch, a snack at about 4 p.m. Then I'll have dinner and a snack after dinner. But like yesterday, I had 2 full meals. I did have desserts, but that's about it. Mitchelle is the speaker at our upcoming wellness talk, and she is a certified fitness coach and nutrition coach. So as much as we're super focused on making sure we're taking care of you when it comes to your mental wellness, we are not leaving our physical health behind, please. I told you this as of last year, and I'm standing on business. So make sure you come through for the talk. Our wellness talks are always so insightful. Some of the topics Mitchelle is going to take us through are PCOS and fitness made simple. She's going to be talking about controlling hunger and cravings, nutrition's role in fitness, managing your stress and metabolism, and a lot of more science-backed and women-focused insights that are going to help you with your physical health, your fitness goals, and your nutrition goals. So the talk is virtual. Wherever you are in this beautiful world, you can dial in. It's on the 29th of March at 10 a.m. East Africa time, and tickets are only 1,000 bob. So if you go to the show notes, there's a link in there for you to click and grab your tickets. Make sure you share this with all the women in your life, because we are really, as I said, standing on business when it comes to making sure that you're going to be meeting your best self. In this episode, we're going to listen to Anne Mwaura, who's a radio broadcaster right here in Kenya, sharing about her journey towards being a mental health champion and advocate. Once again, I will tell you issues on depression and suicide arise in her story, which may be triggering for some. 100 African stories on Legally Clueless. Stories from Africa.
Hi, I'm Anne Mwaura. I'm currently a media personality. I work in radio. I do acting, and I advocate heavily for mental health. I was born in Aga Khan, then my first school I went to was Kestrel Manor, which I still have lifelong friends who were there. And then after that, I went to Braeburn, which was fantastic because that's when I fell in love with theatre, stage, acting. By the age of 10, I knew I wanted to be in any form of entertainment. I loved the escapism of it. I loved when I get on stage, I could see that people just had a moment where they weren't stressed about the day or what they're thinking. So I think that also really is tied into my mental health journey as well, because I was too young to understand what that means, that people need to escape. But clearly, that was my passion and my purpose. But then by the age of 12, towards the end of year 8, before you go to high school, so I started having a lot of issues with eating. I started having a lot of issues with happiness as well. I get sick quite often. Very low days. I felt like I was having an out of body experience, and I thought maybe it's like hormones, especially at that age, you're 12. But then I remember my first year in year 9, I remember my first month actually in year 9, the nurse recommended I see a therapist. So by that time, I'd moved now from Braeburn to a school called Paponi, which is also fantastic, very highly academic, but very artsy as well. So they make you very all-rounded. And it was a very different environment. I went for a school with 66 different nationalities to very now strong personalities who we're from a very wealthy part of life. So not even navigating that was a fascinating experience as well, because it can make you very insecure. And I mean, by very insecure, it can play on your mind. At that age, you're trying to figure out, not even how do these people have these things, but do I deserve to be in this space? Obviously, people can make you feel that way as well. Their entitlement can make you feel that way. And if you don't really know where your strong personality lies as well, it can make you really get lost in all of that, because you start to question your morals, your values. You also start to question everything around you as well, mixed in with the hormones of being a teenager. So yes, the nurse now told my parents I need to see a therapist. Shout out Miss Green. She's a lovely little white lady. The first day we just played a bunch of games in Muthaiga, actually opposite Muthaiga Golf Club. That was where her place was. And we just played a bunch of games, and I guess that was her assessment. I did not know what she was assessing. But in the games we would have little chats and stuff. So she would give me these marbles, and she'd put me in the center of the marble, and then I would have to navigate closeness and fondness and even color of the marbles and the size of the marbles, different aspects in relationships of people around me, be it family and be it friends. And then she also had me to do a lot of activities as well, and then a lot of talking. And then from there, she did mention I had an eating problem. So she did mention, especially at that age, it was a control thing, which means I was either very anxious, but also because of having so many distractions, I played so many sports, I never really thought about the depression aspect of it. So from the age of 12 now, I had to go to therapy every single week. And then we also included family therapy into it, which is fascinating. In African households, it was a safe space. Well, I initiated it. I wanted to do family therapy because I had things to say. You know what I mean? But this is a perfect environment because you're now with a trained professional, and they kind of act as a buffer. So I can say how I feel. My parents could say how they feel. And then we would be separate, and then we'd go in a conversation, but then we'd both be separated to try now come to a conclusion on our own about what we're feeling. So everyone's feelings are valid, yes, but what are the right conclusions to come to? So I love family therapy. I don't mind bringing it back. Let me tell you, if you ever looking to connect with your kids, because there was a point I also stopped talking at home, and that it goes back to being in such an environment of not just so much wealth, but so much strong personalities and confidence in people, who they are. I remember going home, and it wasn't really a resentment. It was more of a confusion as to why am I in this space? It was surreal. It's a very surreal experience. I was talking about it with my friends. Have you ever watched Gossip Girl? If you haven't watched Gossip Girl, it follows the lives of some quite well-off students in New York. And that was Nairobi. That whole experience was literally a mini Gossip Girl, if we're being honest. We used to wear the little heels. We would clumping our way through, and no one could tell us nothing type of vibe. But then when you go home and you're back to being a normal person, it was like, oh my gosh, this is my, regular life. I've been quite close with my mom most of my life. She was just very worried about the eating and the talking thing because I just stopped talking. Like I became mute in the house. It was really just not, and it's not my personality. Obviously, like at first, you're super nervous, and obviously she's so used to. Shout out Miss Green, man. She's really used to dealing with like African families. So she knows how to break the ice. So she'll just be like, everyone can say one thing that's bothering you about each other. That that's weighing on your chest. You can, if you can't say it out loud, you can choose to write it, and she'll read it out loud, and I'll be like, let's interpret this further. So I'm there like, how Africans really believe I pay for your good school, you have a phone, you blah 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 blah, and I'm like, fam, that's the bare necessity. I want time, I feel like I don't feel respected here, and it like over time it just became now the norm. But yeah, the first like couple of sessions were like very uncomfortable, but I also had parents who were interested in being part of my life, and that is a part of respecting my mental health. Oh my god, the car ride home was so awkward. No one said a damn thing that car ride home. Everyone just kind of looked out the window because we're also given homework to ponder on individually and stuff, and then the next week you're asked about your growth, and that's what therapy is like. You see, if it works for you, it works for you. And it wasn't even every week that we did like family therapy. It would just be certain things arise, but I'm not like initiating my family therapy. But if my sister was in therapy and she wanted to do that as well, she would do that with her therapist, and so would my mom, and so would my dad. You know what I mean? Because you don't share therapy. You can have family group therapy, but I was the one who was initiating with my therapist because I'm like, I feel more safer saying it's in this environment. I know when it works because now I can be like, I can tell my mom anything. I can really, that made such a difference and set a foundation for this is a safe space. Yes, I know boundaries and I respect you, but also as we both grow, because you're a mom for the first time and I'm a daughter for the first time, as we both grow, we need to figure out how we're going to navigate this because I got your back. Like that. So it give me healthy tools. And we only did it for a couple of months. It was like for 3-4 months that we had sessions. Like it was like 3-4 sessions, yeah. And then I moved schools again to school called Hillcrest. Character development is an understatement. Shout out to people who go to Hillcrest and God bless you. Because when I was there in my time, I really loved Braven and I really loved Peponi. They were great. They set really good foundations. Then Hillcrest was like very much a party school. It's very much at that time. I don't know what's going on now because I will never go back. But it was very much a party school. It was there was a lot of segregation at that point. Well, quite a bit of segregation. The vibe, I think I just didn't gel well with that environment. And I hadn't been in an environment like that before. So now navigating that as well, took a hit with my mental health. But there are some people I really met that we talk about mental health with them as well. And there's just some people I met who are still with us and who are not that completely changed my life. Like completely. And I didn't realize it until coming back from uni how much like I took them for granted as well, because when you're in the ghetto, you don't see the sunshine around you, so you can take a lot of people for granted. So that's something I learned now much later on in life, and I'm trying to make amends and show the people I really care about, because that was a chaotic time. There's really no rules. It was a really interesting schooling environment. The school was in between a transition. The previous owner had something had happened to him that has to do with politics. So that school's in a transition, which meant there was no real structure. There was no real rules. People and don't forget, people have really nice cars like Range Rovers, but they're doing wheelies with their really nice cars and stuff in the parking lot, or it was too much free. I think too much freedom. I went from understanding multiple cultures to having such rules and structure, and then to seeing what it's like when you have complete freedom. So a lot of transitions, because you're in that bubble. You don't really realize. I personally thought everyone else's life was like this as well. So yes, until I'm still on my first day at Capital FM. It's the first time I was like, wait, so we all did not have this experience. And I remember I'll tell you, we'll get to that story. We were talking to, it was John Fame and Tracy Wanjiro and DJ Prodigy and Anita. And we were talking about high school, and I was like, That's, first of all, those are illegal. They looked at me like, it was illegal. Like, I'm like, wait, that's your experience? So you learn later on that that's not the experience. But with group of schools, yeah, mental health is like, it's not really taboo to talk about. A lot of people are in therapy. A lot of parents are in therapy. A lot of people are in family therapy. It wasn't really something like you got made fun of, or yeah, it wasn't like seen as, like, the stigma wasn't really there. So that's why much later on as well, I became such an advocate. I've become such an advocate for it, because everyone should be allotted the freedom to talk about how they feel. You know what I mean? Without feeling like they're going to be a burden. All right. So now we're in uni, baby. So I went to uni in America, which was also, oh my God, culture shock. I went to uni in America, which was interesting. Our university was fantastic. When a whole mental health department. So by this time, I had been diagnosed with depression. So I was taking medication, a medication called Lexapro, which is like, it's not too bad. Yeah. So I was taking Lexapro and I was taking Catapris, which were like not too bad. And then, so when I was in America, I actually got off medication. So we can even talk about getting on and off medication. So clearly, I told you that the environment I was in towards the end of my high school experience just did not gel well with my mental health, my physical health. It was just not working. But then the minute I landed in America, a weight had been lifted. It literally felt like I could breathe, and like there was like the clouds had gone. You know, with depression, you constantly feel like a weight is on your chest and your shoulders, and everything like is tinted with this like sadness. You know what I mean? You're just happy enough. When you're anxious, it's like in your stomach. Sometimes it'll be in my hands, sometimes I'll be sweaty, but like like when I'm feeling depressed or I'm feeling low, yeah, so weight on my chest, a lump in my throat, lethargic. I'm just seeing everything as like, what's the point? But this was the first time, like in a long time, and I mean since I was like maybe 12, I felt, whoa, I can breathe. I actually feel good. Like this is where I'm meant to be. I was doing what I loved. I had not amazing friends who have turned into family as well, which I'm so grateful for. If you haven't been to the States, there's like 1,001 things to do in even just one corner of the street that you're on. So I really loved that. Your mind's busy. People are kind of minding their business, but everyone's such a different character and person. So I enjoyed learning how different people in the world move and operate. So yes, I felt great. Then I came back to Kenya, and now I remember. So I came back to Kenya on holiday. That was fine. The second time I came back to Kenya, I had lost someone I cared about deeply. So coming back to Kenya was already a trigger. So if you don't know about mental health, triggers are, it could be a certain scent or a place or a person or an outfit or a color that like triggers your mind into a previous memory. It's normally never really good. Like you can get good triggers, but when it comes to mental health, it's normally not a positive trigger. It's maybe a moment you fought with them or something you had said, or a moment that you missed them so much. So now I was coming back to the biggest trigger of all, which was Kenya. And I remember my first 6 months, it felt like everything I'd been feeling since I was 12 had come back, but like more weight had been added onto it. Like it was just, I was just like, I was partying way too much just to forget from the fact that I was surrounded by people who are triggers. I also know I'm a trigger myself, right? So I was surrounded by people who are triggers, so that would trigger me more, and then I'm triggering myself, and it's just like a lot, you know what I mean? So I wasted a lot of time. I didn't miss a lot of like time in that time, because I was trying to distract myself in any way that wasn't healthy. Because getting healthy is one of the hardest things you can do. It's so hard. It's forgetting or like getting lit or escaping is so easy, right? Because this is Nairobi and guys can party from Monday to Monday. Let me tell you right now, if we texted someone right now, we've got a place to be from here to Nakuru to Mombasa, even to Tanzania and Uganda. So there's always someone ready to be out. But if you're telling people, no, I'm not going to have a drink tonight, or no, I think I'm just going to stay in with my own thoughts. No, I'm not going to distract myself. I'm just going to journal. I'm just going to go for a walk by myself. I'm just going to figure out why I feel this way. That's really hard because it's like an everyday thing. And it can pop back up at any time, which is the triggers. So yeah, I was like, this just can't be my life. Like I was honestly, now I was shell shocked in another way, because I'd gone from extreme happiness to extreme sadness. And then with the age of social media, I felt like I was watching my life unfold in front of me while living a life that I didn't feel belonged to me. So as I always say, yes, social media is not like the catalyst of mental illness. And you get a lot of great support there. You also get a lot of negativity there as well, yes. But for me, the watching, especially Snapchat at that time was like Snapchat. Watching my friends in the States continue to live life, and then watching me I felt like I was pretending to be alive. But while I was just kind of like going through the motion. And then Capital came along. Honestly, Capital really did save a big part of me. And the people I met at Capital as well, I mean, are literally now some of my best friends. And then I got to learn a whole other way of living, because up until this point, I'd only ever been surrounded by people I went to school with or their friends and family, right? So I hadn't been to town. Like, I think I'd been to town twice in my, like, before this experience. I didn't know where Capital was. I didn't know where Longrow House was. I knew, like, downtown because we'd passed it a couple of times going other places, but like, and I knew where Snow Cream was because we'd gone to Snow Cream, but that's as far. And then that Chinese restaurant, that's as far as we'd gone. So I didn't know town, and I also didn't know how I did not know how other Kenyans were living. So Capital was doing a thing called Capital One, and my partner at the time was like, you should audition for this. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not gonna lie, now I can tell you, because what you gonna do? But I had no idea what a Hits Not Homework was. I knew what The Fuse was, and I knew what Rick Dees was, because those were like my favorite shows and my favorite genre. But I didn't know what Hits Not Homework was. But I did know that I wanted to be in entertainment, which I had studied. My major is in theatre acting, so I wanted to be in entertainment. So I was like, okay, easy. But I'm like, there's so many people auditioning. No, I'm not gonna get this. So we literally pull a chair in the garden one day, and he's like, okay, go. So he films. I'm like, hi, I'm Anne Mwaura, blah blah blah. And then we make a YouTube channel. He makes a YouTube channel. We upload the video and we just send it over to them. We email it to them. And I'm like, okay, I don't think anything of it. Then they had live physical auditions, but I was going with my partner at the time. We were going on a trip. I'm not canceling the trip for a physical audition for some show I don't know, right? I was like, I'm living for now, baby. I don't know, these people for Hits Not Homework will find me when they find me, right? So I remember I'm missing that audition, and we were talking about it later, and he's like, oh, I'm like, if I don't get it from like a live audition, I'm like, how are they going to audition all these people? Because I've now seen it on Facebook quite a few times. How are they going to audition people like in Kisumu, Nakuru? How is this meant to be? So if my video falls into their email nicely, let's hope that they see it. Well, they did. We thank God. And then I found that I was top 20. And then I knew on that top 20, I knew Barack Jacuzzi, Tracy Wanjur, Nadia Favory, who I ended up working with, who's amazing, Joe Casilla, Shaq the Youngin. I feel like I'm forgetting Rita Yvonne. There's also Tom as well, who are all now in the big spaces in their own field in media, right? So we were all top 20. And then now they had to, so I did not know who these other people are. But I knew Barack because Barack was friends with my partner. And we had a gig at the coast together, so we'd just come back. So that's the only person I know there. But I also know Barack has like a lot of followers. And this time now you have to like and share. You have to get people to like and share your posts. So I was like, okay, bet. So I went and stalked everyone else. And I'm like, holy shit, these guys have like 100,000 followers. I have 2,315 followers on Instagram. On Facebook, I don't even have a page. These guys have pages. I was like, what's happening here? So I went to my mom and I was like, every single Sunday at church, you tell your people to go and share my video, to like it, to comment, tell their aunties in the UK, tell their friends in America. I don't care if you're in China. I don't care where you are. Every Sunday on church announcement, you need to announce that I'm getting closer and closer to getting this. And as they're praying for me, they must also repost and share. They can also write their prayers in the comment section. I don't mind. Just make sure we're doing this. Because there's no other way. There's no other way. I don't know 100,000 people, How my friends in the States going to help me? They don't know what a Hits Not Homework is either. So I'm like, gosh. So and then by the grace of God, you see, prayer works because they would pray. And then they go and tell their, like, I remember later on, people would be like, yeah, your mom told my mom at church to like to share your video. And I'm like, did you though? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, good, because you see, it worked. So I remember it didn't make sense. I had like 2,000 followers, 2,300 and whatever followers. And then, but then I have like a lot of likes and reshares. So I was like, yeah, I'm a hustler. Like, I'm going to hustle my way into this. So then I found out we made top 6, which is interesting. So now top 6 is where you come in to what is it called? To see how the radio station works. So I remember, and then, so you have to sit at least on every single show once for those 2 weeks. And there's only 6 of us. So me being me, I'm like, I'm already the underdog here. People already are aware of who these people are in Kenya. I sat on every single show from 6 a.m., but I used to be there at 5:30. From 5:30 a.m. and I'd leave at 10 p.m., 10:30 p.m. Every single show. Because I'm like, first of all, but you're not even really allowed to talk on the shows, especially the first week. I'm like, these presenters will remember me. I'm going to learn something. I'm going to use this as an internship. These presenters will learn, like, I'll learn from them. They'll remember me, and people in the station will see work ethic. Like, you can teach a lot of things, but one thing I've learned in this industry is you cannot teach work ethic. It will come to shine how people are lazy and how people, So I was like, this is an opportunity I will not fumble. And I already love being in this environment. What's the harm of waking up at 5, being in the office by 5:30 every day from Monday to Friday for 2 weeks? Worked. So I did not know this until later, but everyone in the station now had to vote for who they'd want to be on this Hits Not Homework. I finally got to learn what Hits Not Homework was about. It's like a hip-hop show. So Hits Not Homework is like the pioneer of the cool kids of Kenya. I mean, there's hosts have been there. I mean, has been there, Eve D'Souza, Solo. These guys really cemented. Even Joe Mashiri, these guys really cemented not only people's careers, but they elevated the hip hop industry to me in not just Kenya, but in Africa. You know what I mean? They gave opportunities. They were way ahead of people and finding talent, creating moments for people that otherwise would not have been seen, marginalized people. Don't forget the access to internet was not as, booming as it is now. So people would come in with mixtapes. People have, rap battles. And I'm talking about people you've heard before, like the Calligraph Jones, the Octopieces. Yes, they're coming there, and battling it out. And first songs dropping is happening right then and there. And these guys are the forefront of that. So getting a show like that and learning about that at the time was like, whoa. Like, what an honor, because I was still on, like, I'm at the rock stage in this conversation, I'm like, I'm on the fuse, but I'm like, the only way I can get into there is to get into here. So I started now having to learn about Kenyan, like, hip-hop culture. What does it mean? Where does it come from? Learning things like, Wizkid used to open up for so many acts in Kenya, and now you're seeing him where he is, and just, like, understanding things like that was fascinating to me. And then also now learning people. So, yes. So then anyway, we get to top 6, people vote, and then I win. Yay. Myself and Tracy and Jura win. And then my best friend Anita joins us, which turns into a whole controversy now, which turned into, let's bring it back to mental health. Kenyans are slick, they're smart, and they are scary. Oh my gosh. Kenyans on Twitter are very creative, very, very creative, but some can be really sinister. And I wasn't used to that environment. Don't forget, my 2 colleagues and co-hosts have a combined following of maybe 600, 700,000 people at that time. And then the DJs on the show is John Farme. It's, it's Protege. So, and I still was at that time, I'm with my 2000, so I'm not understanding the magnitude. So I think even my Twitter account had like 500 followers. So I'm going there and I'm just seeing when you see your name trending, you're like, I don't understand what's going on. But people don't know you, so they have nothing to say. But then you could go on Google and then they're seeing, I'm more boyfriend, I'm more parents. And you're like, whoa, why are you looking into these things? That's weird. So it was like trial by fire. That's when I really learned the industry. If you have a good group of people around you, you can survive and you can thrive, but you also have to be able to separate the job from like your passion sometimes, because if I had let that moment, especially when like it feels like the whole world is talking trash about you, like suffocate, then it would have killed my passion instantly. You know what I mean? I've been like, what's wrong with this country? I want to go back to the States. I don't even know the genre of music still. I'm not trying to learn as we go. I'm trying to learn. All I know is someone has believed in me and they've heard my voice, and I just want to do the best I can. But then you have people like trying to tell you no, you know what I mean? Now it's thick skin, which is so sad as well. But now it's thick skin, so it's like whatever. And that comes with like having respect for what you're doing. So yeah, so then we got dogged on. We like Anita and I became really, really close from that experience. I keep saying she's my best friend, but we're like, you know, we go to therapy, we discuss these things openly and how it traumatized us at some point, or how it made us grow at some point. And then that's also why I got to now meet Jofame and Prodigy and stuff, and we have conversations on the show where they talk about their experience growing up. And I'm like, what you're describing is trauma. And they're like, girl, we've all been through that. Like, and I'm like, no, I'm like, I don't know if I would be able to cope, because what you're describing is not sounding like normal to me, but you guys think I'm soft. But I'm it's not feeling sorry. None of us are feeling sorry for each other. We're just learning from each other's experience. That's when I learned the word group of schools, and I realized, some people really just don't vibe with it. And it had gone from being like something like my parents are super proud to work so hard to put me there, to somewhere I'm like, I don't want to talk about where I went to school, because I don't want to make people uncomfortable, or I don't want people to think I won't relate, because that would happen. There's some artists I interviewed who very much a minute my accent, or you know what I mean, and start speaking, their whole demeanor changes. And it's not maybe necessarily a me thing, but I have talked to my friends who went to school, like similar schools, and in their workplace, they also feel the same. So yeah, so it's just about learning and navigating, like, okay, we're all in the same Nairobi, we're all in the same Kenya, but such different experiences, such different conversations on mental health, even on learning, you know, things. It was such a learning curve as well. Definitely made me grow thicker skin, because I'm like, okay, if you know, when you sit there and you're like, okay, surely I can actually handle this. Maybe I have been coddled a little bit. I can handle, it's not the end of the world. I don't need to make a huge fuss about it. Whereas before I was like, this is going to end my world. Someone has to fix this for me. So it was great. It was great to learn how different people have experienced Kenya. So I am unlearning. I mean, I'm still always unlearning. I think one of the biggest was how I perceive people. So to me, okay, I'd grown up with one image of what Kenya was like. So when I stepped outside of that bubble, I had to completely unlearn what Kenya is really about, what people are generally about, like getting to actually know people. Because if it wasn't in my bubble, I never would have interacted. You know what I mean? I don't know if it was like it's an upbringing thing, or where we're told like it's a safety thing. I don't know if it's a we have nothing to relate thing. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like that was something I really had to unlearn, where I'm like, oh, actually, cool. A great example, is my first week at Capital. Shout out to the digital team, like the guys like Muba and Paul and stuff. They took me out to downtown. We went to the clubs. Like I'd never been clubbing in town. And most of my life was really like, what, you're going to town, you know? So I really got to learn so much, and like how interesting people are and how fun it is. So yeah, it was just a lot unlearning a lot of my perception of people and places and things. Yeah, and also being very like comfortable in being uncomfortable. I also had to unlearn this whole watering myself down and feeling meek to make other people comfortable. So if you're not comfortable in my presence and you don't explain to me, like you don't tell me why, how am I meant to know? You know what I mean? But I also have to ask, like, if I can feel like you feel away, instead of me just like shutting up and being like, whatever, it is what it is, I definitely needed now to take the steps to be like, hi, is there an issue, or I'm getting this energy or this vibe from you? Maybe you could let me know, done something, or is it, you know what I mean? Like learning to speak up. I had to unlearn this whole thing of, especially as a woman in the workplace, let me just let it go and keep the peace. What peace? And then you start going mad, then and you're deeper into therapy. So I mean, I've noticed it from like day one when I told you on His Homework, when I'd listen to people's experiences, I'm like, they've normalized some issues, things that just sound so traumatic, and it's carried on into their day-to-day lives, and people haven't noticed it, as I as well. We all have these things that we've carried on. But then when it got extremely bad was pandemic. I would say the pandemic is when I saw a lot of people's personalities change, a lot of people's values change, a lot of people's hope changed as well. For me, I loved being at home. I loved working from home, because where I was living, I was still hanging out, like my friends was, next door. They're not too far off. But then now I watched other friends have to deal with the financial strain of it, which now is such a big mental health toll in Kenya, especially for men. And then I lost a very dear friend at work, and that completely changed a lot. So I've had friends commit suicide. I thought I'd learned to deal with it, but then this person who passed away, all the people previously piled now on top of that experience, and I realized I hadn't dealt with it. I had distracted myself from it, and this is the first time it was like there's so many things that could have been avoided with this person and these other people, that I need to find a way to do something about it. Like, I need to, obviously I'm not going to be able to fix it all, because I'm not, I'm just one person and we can all do it together, but being more vocal and breaking the stigma and making it very clear that there's nothing wrong with having those feelings, but there's also nothing wrong with seeking out help and understanding you're not the burden, and even just understanding the full scope of what mental illness or what mental health is about is so important. There's different types of therapy. There's different ways to communicate as well. There's so much happening that should be an option that's way at the end of the road. You know what I mean? That's when you've exhausted all other avenues of trying. So those experiences really, I mean, I got diagnosed with PTSD, but that really did traumatize me into wanting to affect change, because I'm like, I know how it feels already, so I can empathize, but now it's also time to find solutions. Make that effort. If everyone makes that effort to have a little bit of empathy, yes, because we're all going through things in our own way, but also to find solutions within yourself and for other people. You can heal yourself with healing other people. And that's why I've now got really into discussing it. So on the show, make sure that we talk about at least a mental health topic a week. And it's all about destigmatizing. So we can talk about anything from Tourette's to PTSD to depression. Oh my God, mental health has taken a toll on me at work, at home. I've been hospitalized. I talk about this openly. So I think it needs to be covered by insurance. I've had 2 nervous breakdowns. I've been hospitalized twice because my medications stopped working. Now I'm happy to say I'm not on medication, but that's from really a lot of hard work. Some days my mental health really does dip, and I have to remember and have to take active steps to get it back on track, because it's an everyday thing, right? So yes, I have been hospitalized for mental illness. I have been so depressed. I was getting to the point where people were worried, and we needed now to assess the situation. And that gets to a point where now no medication is working. It could also be for different types of mental illnesses as well. So after my friend passed away, obviously when you see it live, you never expect to see someone pass away live. It really, I'd get nightmares. I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't eat. And it puts you in a position where it can affect your workplace. Now, I think your workplace is so important in helping you out. That's why I always give credit to my amazing colleagues, because when they saw me shaking and they saw me weak, to me, what I felt was weak, they didn't judge me. They instantly started finding out who's my doctor, how to get me help. When I came back into the office, they were the ones, let's go for lunch, let's talk to each other. It opened up conversations within our office with other people as well. And then that also trickles down into my friendships outside of work, because, I was able to go home and I'm not anxious about going to work, or I have these people now, become my friends as well. So my other group of friends who are not in this field also kind of feel more open to talk about what's going on in their offices and find safe spaces within where they work as well. So it's so essential to have a safe person or safe space within your office, because that is where you spend a big part of your life. So I had a nervous breakdown. That's a different from a break. So I had a full nervous breakdown. All the medication I was taking just wasn't working at all. And something called disassociation now starts to check in, where it's like a lucid dream. When you're asleep, but you're awake at the same time. You can navigate your dreams. Well, that happens that's called disassociation, when your eyes are open and you're moving around. So you'll see me in the club. I don't remember. There's literally an entire month of hanging out with people, even doing the show. I don't remember what I said on the show, so it make me repeat myself. You know what I mean? Because I've disassociated. I'm just not going through the motion, and it's just this lethargic feeling. you don't care. You and I can have a conversation like right now. I don't even remember seeing you tomorrow. Like tomorrow, if someone asked me, oh my God, yeah, I remember when I ran into you. Where were we? They're like, we were at Art Cafe, we were having lunch. I'm like, when was this? You lose track of time, day, and then insomnia checks in. So I was going maybe 3, 4, sometimes even 5 days without sleeping. Can go a good 3 days without eating, or feeling nauseous all the time. Like there's a lot that leads up to, the people don't just get hospitalized. They don't wake up and say, there's something wrong with this one, let's take her in. No, it's when we've tried all efforts, tried medication, they've tried talk therapy, and they've monitored you for enough time to know something is now wrong. We're getting to a point where this person needs to like be reset. We're taking a step back and we need to figure out what to do. So I was in hospital for a week. I still think it needs to be on insurance. Mental health needs to be taken so much more seriously because it is quite expensive. So I was in hospital for a week, and then I was discharged, and then I wanted to get back to work as soon as possible. I really missed it. I missed being by day 3 I was feeling much better, but like I really missed being on radio. I really missed my show. I missed talking to my listeners who become like fam, So I really, really missed it. I missed my co-host at the time, which was Nadia. Shout out Nadia. I took now that weekend off, like 4 more days, and then I got back into the office like a week after. Okay, so at work we have something that is called Bonga, which has peer-to-peer counseling or free anonymous counseling that you can go and rant or vent or even ask questions. I see a lot of parents who have maybe what they call as difficult children or children that they don't understand, big personality kids, which I like to say. They feel like they might be judged in their WhatsApp groups or in their church groups or even at school, which I'd advise you, please do talk to your children's teachers because they know what they're doing. But I do see a lot of people coming to Bonga and they just come and rant or vent. Or they'll come and ask a question. Hi, I've just been diagnosed with bipolar. Is there any support groups, WhatsApp groups? Can someone like message me numbers? I can join WhatsApp groups. And people do. They'll message you a WhatsApp group you can join. Which now you bring that to your phone and you make your own communities there. There's people who will be like, third year student. I have severe acne. Can you guys help me with what you've tried? I've never been on a date before. There's so many things. And the great thing about it is it's anonymous. I remember during the pandemic, it broke my heart to see the amount of men who had come on and said they had lost their jobs 2 months ago, 3 months ago, and their wives didn't know. And they wanted to end it, but then they found a support group there where other men are like, oh, I lost my job. And because it's anonymous, whether you have to say, you can say, you can choose to say 30 female or, 35 male. But you don't have to say it as well. You can just leave it completely ambiguous and just write your round. People come there and literally just vent about their work colleague. And the great thing is you get to see what other Kenyans are saying in real time. So we started that after my friend passed away. And what we also have is a lot of different organizations that we can send you to. We have open space conversations about mental health. Where am I in terms of my mental health? I'm doing a lot better. Like I said, some days are really good. Some days are, I'd be messing up. I'm human. But then it's just like not wallowing in those bad days and really kind of getting moving. I would say in terms of like relationships and friendships, good, because I've created such a support system that when I feel I may be drowning or kind of like leaning into behaviors I like used to cope that are not healthy, I can always like go back into my friendships and relationships and be like, okay, and they got me too. You know what I mean? They'll be like, oh, you're moving a little bit too on the left side of life. Let's come back to the center. In terms of work-wise, we just started the year, so I'm excited to see how that's gonna go. Still doing what I love, so that's great. But it's also, I would say, I've really chosen this year to make a conscious decision to not chase happiness but accept it, because I feel like the more I've chased it over the years, the further it's gotten away, and I've changed what my ideas of happiness has been so much. Now I'm just really like content and happy. Like I just want to see how things go and I'm okay with that.
Catch more African stories in the next episode of Legally Clueless. What a powerful story. What a powerful story. So much to connect with. Okay, I'll share 3 things and then I want to hear from you. The first one is I was just having a conversation this past week about something that Anne brought up. We're shooting a new show. It's coming soon. And in the lead up, I've been for a good year or so listening and watching interviews, just trying to improve on my interviewing skills. And I realized someone who used to be one of my favorite interviewers decades ago, I went back to them recently to listen to some of their more recent work. And I just felt like something was missing. Something wasn't landing the way it used to decades ago. And I was telling a friend about it, and they said, oh, maybe you can't connect with her because decades ago she was part of the middle class and she had a deep connection and interaction with what the middle class life looks like. And now she's in the 1%. So when she's interviewing someone in the middle class, the interview feels disconnected because she is completely disconnected from that life, right? And I'm not saying that the only way to connect with someone's life is to live the life. No, it's just to be in different spaces, to listen more, But I think you have to try and expose yourself to as many different realities, not just as a broadcaster, but as a human. I got the feeling when Anne realized her reality wasn't the only reality, she started to expose herself to as many different realities as possible, which I was like, good one. Another thing I connected with is, man, having an emotional reaction to an experience or to words doesn't make you soft. It makes you human. I've had many people in my life tell me that I am too sensitive. They presented it as something wrong. And I used to think that it was a weakness until I realized how many people have let the world harden them and aren't able to undo that process. But here I am, able to feel big feelings deeply. So it's like my superpower. And the last thing that I really connected with is just the normalization of speaking about mental health challenges. And I truly appreciate Anne for doing this. There is just so much strength in this. It allows you to shed off shame. It allows you to understand that what's happening is normal. There's a word for it. And guess what? There's also a solution. Now I want to hear from you on whatever platform you're listening to this episode from. Drop in the comments what you connected with. And as we wind up, thank you for being part of this family. I truly appreciate you, and I believe you have everything it takes to heal. That's it for this episode of Legally Clueless. You can share this podcast with your friends. You can keep it for yourself. I'm not judging. Just make sure you're here next week for the next episode.